Hey everybody, welcome back today. Today I'm going to be talking about migrating from Squarespace onto Framer and converting your blog from Squarespace and keeping it into Framer so that you can maintain existing blog posts that you may have had on your website that might be generating SEO and traffic for you. And we avoid manual work as much as possible. So this is a pretty straightforward process. We're going to need a little bit of AI to help us out, convert some stuff. But let's get right into it. So if you've been watching my previous videos, I've talked about how we've been in the process of going through a rebrand. This is a business that me and my brother are a part of. We acquired this company that was previously known as Brand 28, and we have been converting it into a new brand called Hyvio, and I've been doing the website revamp on this. The existing website that has been here for years has been built on Squarespace, and this website doesn't have a whole lot of traffic right now, but the little bit of traffic that it does have is from its blog posts. So on the website, we have our blogs here, and this is really where we've been generating the little bit of traffic that we've gotten. So as I finished the Framer website and as I've been learning more about SEO, I was realizing how important all of our links are. I had never actually done a blog inside of Framer. All of the websites that I have built, period, honestly just haven't had any blogs. Like, they've just been very simple marketing sites. But we had about 77 blog posts. But this was our existing page, and all of the cover images that we have, the titles, you click onto one of these, and then you can see this blog post. And then this is the new website that we have. This is the blog page, and this is how it is looking now. So we've got this pagination. We have all of these cover images, the titles, and then we've got these categories. So this was something that I was trying to move pretty quick on, and this really is a lot of the template that Framer gives you when you're building out a blog page. I didn't change much out here. I just kept some of the branding that we had throughout our website. And then if you click into one of these, then you're brought to this point where you've got the date that the blog post was posted, and then you've got the content here as well. So I did not want to go through this individually and build all of this out from scratch and copy all of the copy and then paste it and make sure it's all formatted correctly. And that just felt like a whole lot of work that I wanted to try and avoid. Luckily, Framer allows it so that you don't have to do all of this work manually. When you're wanting to start a blog post, you can click up here with the CMS and it will bring you to your CMS. This is all of the content. This is all of your images, the categories. This is where essentially all the data is. This is like a mini database. And this does seem kind of complicated, but it really is simple. You can just click into these and then you can see this is your blog post really in a unglamorized way. Like, you've got all the fields for your title. You've got your excerpt. We've got the Slugs, so that's our URL. We've got the image, we've got the date, categories, and then you've got the content. And this is just really where the blog post lives right here. So what you're going to want to do is get into your Squarespace login, and then you're going to go down here onto your settings. And then from here on this website, if you come down here, you're going to see this import and export content. Depending on when you're watching this video, this may have changed, but you're just looking for this export content option. If you click on that, you're going to have these two options. You can import or you can export. For us, we are leaving the platform, so we're going to export all the content that we have. And when you come here, you'll see that we only have one option, and that is WordPress. Now, I don't build on WordPress. I'm building on Framer. But what you'll do is you'll just click this anyways, and you will select your category. So we have a blog here. We're going to click on that blog, and then we will just export. This will just take a minute as it's compiling all of our content, all of the information that we need. The one thing that we have to talk about here, and the reason that we need AI, is the only format that Squarespace gives us is in an XML file. So we need a CSV file, but the nice thing about an XML file is it really is pretty adaptable to all sorts of things. So you can convert an XML into a CSV fairly easily, and that's what we're going to do with Claude. So we can see all of these pages are coming together here now, and then you can come here and download the form. So after this point, we'll have to go into your AI platform of choice. I am using Claude, and what you need to do is just explain what it is you're doing. Simply tell it, we're going from Squarespace onto Framer. We want to convert this XML file into a CSV file so that we can easily import all of our blog posts, so we don't have to do this manually. And you can see how my thinking was. Like, this was the first time I'd ever gone about this. I had originally used an XML to CSV online converter tool, and it just brought me back a TXT file, which is not what I wanted. And so I would suggest just skipping over that phase altogether and just come straight here with your XML and say, I need this to be a CSV file. This is going to be a blog post inside of Framer. And if you know more of the specifics, like the certain structure that you have, then you can list that as well. But then I just paste in the XML here, and then it's able to pull out all of the information that we have. So it tells us everything that it found, all the information, and then you can see that it created right here the CSV file with all of the information and all of the data that we needed. If you're finding this video helpful, please make sure to give it a like. I would greatly appreciate it. All you have to do then is to take that CSV file, come in here into Framer, go to your plugins, just type in CSV import. I have it as my recent. And then when you're here, you can upload that CSV file. So you can drag it in or you can import it. You can take this and then you can download this, which is great. Then come here, find your CSV file and then upload it. You're gonna be brought to this page where it's just mapping the columns. At first this was confusing to me, but it's really very simple. So you have your title that it's pulling from the CSV file, and then you have your title in the CMS field. So you want those to match up so that the titles go where the title's supposed to go, that the title's not gonna go like into the blog post or something like that. Now you'll see here, this was the first round when I was going through AI, and it says that there's a mismatch. The reason that it's a mismatch is that this is trying to look for published date, and this is just date. So I went back into my AI. So that original one was published date. I had them come in and just fix that to being date. So since this is coming from Squarespace, you might, I would assume, have the same naming structure. So just prompt that inside of your AI model to make sure that all of your things here line up so that when you're in here, you don't get this error because it's having a hard time because they don't match the names. That error didn't happen for all of them. For example, this one had content HTML in the first version that I did it, but if I click on content, it doesn't have any issues there. So I'm not really sure why that happens, but in the other version that's not this version that I continued to refine with AI, I had them clean that up also, that it just said content. If there's any of this data that you don't need or you don't plan on using, then you can uncheck this so that it doesn't come through. One thing that you do need absolutely is your Slugs. So make sure that that's checked and then come down here and map it to your slug line. So now this here, the type plain text versus formatted text, this doesn't really matter a whole lot, I don't think, but it does matter for your content, especially if your content from Squarespace was properly formatted with, H2s, H3s, H1s, all that stuff. And you're gonna want that to come through so that it automatically does that and you don't need to format it yourself. So just make sure that that's formatted text. By default, mine is just only allowed for the formatted text option. Once you do that, then you can click import, and what you'll see is all of this is going to populate. So you might just have the placeholders that Framer provides you, and then you'll have all of those blog posts come in. So just so you can see some of the bugs that I was running into, here inside of Framer, this is my tags, but you can see that I got this pop-up where it said there was no items that would match this content, whatever that says. The reason that I was running into this issue is that there's another side of this is your categories. So within Squarespace, we didn't have any categories. So, and categories is in a different section. So you have your articles up here in your CMS, and then you have your categories here. Your categories is where basically all of your topics are going to live. So I had to create all of these manually. Then what I did is I said, all of the videos that we have, please categorize which ones should go with which so that I can quickly come in and then assign inside of the articles. Because once I create those categories, I can come into the blog post and then I can come down here to this categories tab, and then I can select whatever categories that I want to have. So that's one thing that took me a minute because I thought that the categories should have come through with the rest of the information in the CSV file, and I didn't realize that there was this extra page on Framer that you needed to fill out and add some extra information there. I wasn't able to find a way to automate that process. That was something that I had to manually do myself. And then I had to go in individually into each blog post and assign which ones I wanted. So the other one that it got caught up at first was when I went through each individual post, the content wasn't showing up. So if I went into one of these blog pages, there was no content and there was no image. It was purely just the title showing up. And I don't even think the date was showing up properly because it didn't format the date correctly. That was another thing that I had to go into Claude and just ask it, please format it. The content wasn't showing up and my images weren't showing up. And that was because the information wasn't mapping to the content. It was mapping down here to content HTML. But what Framer is looking for is data inside of this content text field. And that's what it's going to be pulling from. So just make sure that when you import, it is going to be mapping to this field, the content, and then your information will come over accordingly. And then if in your website you have your H1, H2s, and etc. styled, then all of that should convert over as well. So this is like my body text within the website, and that all converted nicely. All of this bold text and other information already came over because that content field is formatted text. That's why it's important for that to be formatted, so that those formats come over cleanly and nicely. So any change that I make on any of these pages, this is like a template, is going to come through with every single page. You'll see that all of the titles and H2s are consistently formatted, and the body text is formatted, and all of that's coming through. All of that has been saved into the CSV file, and it's all formatted correctly. If it wasn't this way, I couldn't imagine trying to do all this yourself, especially if you have a lot of blog posts like we had, and you're trying to do that all manually. And if you're still running into the problems of the dates, this is my prompt that I added, and then it was explaining it, and then it just fixed it for me and put it cleanly into a new CSV file that I was able to download and then re-import. So the most important part of migrating this is to make sure that your links are staying consistent. So once you transition to your domains, if you have a lot of blog posts that are out there and they are on other people's blog pages and people are clicking those links and are being redirected, if that link no longer exists, you're going to get a 404 page. You're basically directing to nowhere on your web page, and that hurts your credibility. And so that's why it's really important when you're coming in here to your CMS that you make sure that you have your slug. And this is something that I would probably not try to mess with. I wouldn't try to change it. I'd probably try to, just keep things as they were. I would just try to not mess with this. And if you do mess with it, just make sure that you add a redirect. Once you do that, you can add your old URLs and then redirect them to the new URL so that you don't have any dead ends. But that was really it. I mean, it was a pretty straightforward and simple process that was pretty easy. And I think that it's going to make the blog posts look better. It's an improvement on the design. But more importantly, we're continuing to maintain the content that we had that is getting views, as little as it might be. And that is a huge thing. So the one thing that did not come through, unfortunately, were the images. So I had to come back in here into every individual blog post and copy all those images and then add them manually into Framer inside of the CMS. And that came in here, and I would have to just, click here and choose my image. And I did that for every single one. So that was the one part that was frustrating and unfortunate, that Squarespace couldn't just package all my images in its own zip. If you're migrating from another web platform, they might do this a little differently, that it may not be as frustrating or complicated. But the nice thing is, if you have any content inside of your blog post, like images, I didn't have to add any of these images or these links or these video embeds. Those came automatically with it, which was awesome. So the CMS feature inside of Framer is a paid feature, but if you're on the Framer domain, you can still do this without having to go to a paid plan yet. But once you are then going live with your domain, you have to pay for the CMS version, which is a little bit more expensive. I think it's $30 or $45 a month. So that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching this. Give it a like if it was helpful, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.